Joining me on this episode to chat is J Coleman. We go back quite a few years to DC when I was just starting out in my video production career. We met while I was doing a video on his Jiu Jitsu school. He still has that going to this day. He's an accomplished artist and an art teacher, and at home with a bunch of dogs and kids and bonfires and he's just trying to get through right now, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So I thought it would be really cool to talk to Jay. So thanks for coming on, Jay.
Good to be here. I actually thought we met through, was it through I thought it was through an art piece or like National Skate Day, or I can't remember which one came first.
Actually, I think, well, I don't know if it was jiu-jitsu first or the art, but when I was doing that local video production for the first Verizon Fios channel out in Arlington, Virginia, I actually would find people via Craigslist to try and do like human interest stories, and I think that's how I found you. And I thought it was through jiu-jitsu, and then I realized you did the art, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. So I might have to go back into the archives and pull some of that footage. Actually, I think it's still on my personal YouTube page if we really want to go for it.
But yeah, and then we did the boxing short film a long time ago.
We did boxing. We did there was a skate day when you painted the mural. So that was fun. I'll put a link on the bottom of the screen so people can stalk my old YouTube days of like 12, 13 years ago. But let's talk a little bit about now, Jay, right? So almost everything you do requires or has required you to be in front of people. Your jiu-jitsu school, being a teacher, and your art. So maybe tell me a little bit, first tell everyone a little bit about yourself more than what I've said, and also kind of what your daily life has been like and how you've had to adjust all of these different jobs and activities that you do.
I teach at a private school, so I teach art at a private school as my day job. I run 2 jiu-jitsu schools, and I'm there 7 days a week. And additionally, I work on films, and been pretty lucky over the past 15 years or so to have a pretty successful art career. And of course, all of these things have changed with the recent sort of state of the world. I've had an exhibition canceled. Obviously, the schools are closed, so I'm working from home and working online with that. And then with the jiu-jitsu schools, those have been closed, so we're doing online workouts and just trying to get people together to go for walks and stay connected like that.
So tell me a little bit more about the jiu-jitsu. Like, what types of, are you still doing full classes, or you're just doing kind of online or just kind of small instructional things? How are you figuring that out right now?
We're using Zoom for that as well, and that normally goes 3 nights a week, and it's a lot of body weight exercises. We've mixed in some Pilates and yoga. I think we've done every type of push-up that is out there, but just trying to keep people moving. We do a lot of drilling. Obviously, jiu-jitsu is a partner thing. It requires another person, and so it's basically just been trying to keep the body moving, and doing certain drills. Like jiu-jitsu has a lot of solo drills, and trying to keep that muscle memory, because jiu-jitsu is a lot like chess or playing guitar. It requires pattern recognition, and your body can forget that pretty quick.
Have you found that a lot of your students are still logging in and participating, and they're getting something out of it?
Well, I hope people are getting something out of it. It's not maybe 10% of our students are logging on. It's not like a full participation, and but I think everybody's schedule is crazy right now, myself included. And I know everyone is trying to balance work life and family life, and it's when you can actually leave the house and go train, I think it's a little easier than when you still have to deal with everyone in your household and be nope, I'm gonna look at the computer, which is a struggle for me daily.
It's an out of sight, out of mind thing. That's why we have these places to go, right? In a way, and be able to focus. And you're also, we might come back to the jiu-jitsu, but with, as an art teacher too, we were talking before we started recording. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more. You're in Maryland, and kind of how the school system actually jumped to it pretty quickly, or actually the private school that you're in, like how that's been, what kind of you're doing technologically, and how the students are taking to it.
I think it's been it's been different on an individual basis. Like some schools just closed and the teachers are, not working. They're just kind of home with their families and, dealing with this. The particular school that I work at, like, sort of took preemptive measures, and we started training, with like with Zoom and like how the class schedules would look prior to closing, so that when the school closed, we were pretty much live like the next school day. So it's a challenge, it's a challenge. Like I think it's hard for adults and it's hard for kids to stare at a computer. We try to, like, with my particular classes, I try to get the kids to get up and stretch a little bit and move around and do things like that before the class starts. And you know, it's um, it's a challenge, but we'll get through it.
How have you changed maybe what you're doing? Because do they not, I don't know if these students have all the supplies. Are they more watching you rather than them doing it? How have the classes changed?
It's kind of a mixed bag. Like we do some of the classes like are very discussion based, almost like art history. So I'm able to, like, share imagery and, like, analyze like on the screen. With some of the more like instructional stuff, like, I've done like super like old school Bob Ross style, like on a pad of paper behind me, and also I've used like different like digital programs, like with a stylus, to like draw on the screen so that they can mimic techniques. But it's uh it's not easy.
Do you what have you learned? Like, is there anything that you think that now you might adapt or change differently in the future? Like if and when, hopefully when we get back to being in classrooms and being in groups, have you learned anything from this?
I've actually I think I've been teaching now for like 15 years or something like that. And I think, I mean, one takeaway for me that I've learned is that, one, we are, those of us that are still have jobs are definitely, we're fortunate, we're blessed. There's so many people out there that have it, much worse. But I've learned that I'm not a teleworker. Like I cannot stare at a computer. It's just, between work and then editing and like stuff, like I just can't. It's really difficult for me, and I think it affects my, sort of my sleep and my mood. And you know, again, I don't want to complain too much because we are, lucky to have him.
Sure, but it's still our own lives, we're everyone has their thing going on, right? And this is a difficult time, and we're all trying to adapt. And I mean, what are you doing at home? I know you're like back to the day when we used to actually go outside and play catch with a football or a baseball. Oh gosh, I sound like an old person right now. But tell me like what you're doing at home, right? Because with the two kids and Christy, your wife, and the dogs, how are you trying to keep things okay for yourself personally and make sure everyone in the house is feeling good?
Because like when you're in meetings and things like that, people always talk about like self-care and like sort of being mindful, and I never ever paid attention to any of that. Like I don't dismiss it, obviously, but it's just like something that never really resonated with me. But now, like, that it's pretty palpable. Like, so now, like, I still get up pretty early. I try to go for a walk every morning. I like to see the sunrise. I know I'm going to be stuck in front of a computer for a substantial amount of my day, so like I like to get up and see the sunrise, and I walk around, and wave to neighbors, like, take the dogs for a walk, and then try to get a little workout in, just like something physical. And then as soon as my day ends, like on the computer, or as soon as I get a break, I like go outside immediately and try to like just get some fresh air. And um, that's basically how I'm coping. We play a lot of catch in the backyard. Like I bother my wife. I told her I feel like the kid in the neighborhood that nobody wants to play with, because I'm always bugging Christy to, like, go to get the glove and go play catch. We play a lot of catch. We've like put up some targets and
Right.
Anything we can do.
And what about the kids? Are they like? Have you had to change? Because one, at least one, if not both of them, are in school in some way, right? So How have you seen their experience with their schools versus what you're going through?
They're not required. They don't have any work. Like their schools are, basically Virginia sort of took like this, the work is optional. They're not having to do work, and like basically like they're allowing families and the employees to just sort of be home and not have to like maintain some
Right.
sort of like work environment. So my kids are actually like they're not the biggest fans of school, and my older kid is kind of like the gamer type of kid. So he's actually like loving life right now. So
Right.
and my youngest is just likes to he's happy not to be in school too. He likes to be able to sleep in and run
Yeah.
around and stay up late. And
Do you think like what is this gonna? I mean, we don't have to get into some type of grand approach and idea here, but I mean, we're seeing directly like one school that you work for is being very proactive, and the other schools that your kids in aren't. Like, are you concerned about like variance in education level after this year, or like I wonder what they're gonna do?
I mean, I don't think they're going to make them go to summer school. I don't know. Maybe they'll extend their year next year. I hope they don't, man, because it's not like it's a holiday. It's a it's a global phenomenon, and I think that like I'm okay with like the schools closing and them not having to do work because I think like right now it's just important just to like sort of keep yourself sane, be with the family. I think that's the most important thing. And like teachers work hard, so like I know a lot of people make the joke about like the summers off and stuff, but I mean I think that they've done their due diligence and like in this time they deserve like the time to be off and with their families.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier, I think before we got on, how, this is awful, this pandemic, and we want people to be safe and healthy, but also mentally and emotionally, like maybe it's okay to take a break, right? Where at least in this country, we can talk about we're constantly moving and going and filling time, and for once, maybe let's be a little bit more introspective and take care of ourselves more. I don't, that's something you've been working with too.
I'm working on it daily, and yeah, I kind of like I'm a kind of I go back and forth, like I know that with certain uh, certain demographics, like continued education is probably important to keep the kids in a routine and keep them sharp. Um, but it's hard to say. I don't really know. I'm not sure what like a lot of the universities are doing. Like to my understanding, a lot of them are just they're closed, and the professors aren't sending work home, and so I think you're right, man. I think like time off is maybe necessary.
And what about your art? Are you? I know you said you have had an exhibition canceled. Are you using this time to do any? Are you? Tell me a little bit of how that's
Yeah,
being managed.
I've been trying to get out to the studio, 4 or 5 days a week, like, for a small amount of time and work on paintings. And then I've been working a lot with digital stuff lately also. Just anything I can do, man, to sort of maintain like composure and sanity, like I'm doing it.
I bet. Are you? Have you thought about different ways to try and get your art out there if this keeps extending, or like where?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, like right now, my thought is as soon as the pandemic is over, I'm going to give everything away that I have. But but
I'll raise my hand for that. Yeah.
yeah, I got you, man. I got you. So yeah, I haven't really thought a lot about like about different, about the gallery pursuit after this is over. I've actually sort of scaled back on that the last few years with all of the filmmaking and stuff.
Mm,
I've had to like turn down some shows just because there's just not enough hours in the day for
right.
everything I'm sort of involved in.
And with your jujitsu schools, I mean, those are businesses. You're providing all of these online tools and things for folks, but what do people need to understand, and what have you learned as running small businesses?
It's a small example, but I think it has a big reflection of what small businesses are going through right now. You know, um, because a lot of people have that sort of pay to play mentality, and like when the schools close, people are canceling memberships, and small businesses, jujitsu or anything, tattoos, we're still paying rent, and so it's obviously I don't want to like I don't know everyone's financial situation, so I don't want to be um, I don't want to have too much judgment on that, but I mean, it's kind of like like I don't watch HBO every day. But when the new season of Game of Thrones comes on, I want it to be there, So I pay my cable bill, you know what I mean? And like eventually the doors are going to reopen, man, and the lights are going to come back on, and we'll come back together. So I think it's like important that people stay like, that they honor those commitments, and that they believe in something, that they continue to support the small businesses. I mean, I'm trying like with the local restaurants, I try to order food and do what I can.
Yeah, I mean, because the hope is that, none of us are doctors or experts in it, but we hope this is a passing thing, and that, it's only going to be a couple months or a few months, and then we can go back to, it probably won't be the same type of normal, but some type of semblance of getting back to normal and being back and supporting our businesses. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and sports will hopefully.
Right.
I don't know. You think baseball is going to do like the short season, or?
I don't know. It's, I have to say it's kind of intriguing how they've thought about the new division separation. I'm not so mad at that idea, to be honest. I think it could be kind of fun and mix it up, but I don't know how. I think there's a lot that these players and the staff need to think about, because it's not just the 25 to 35 man team. It's the coaches, it's the support staff. So you're going to have hundreds of people that I don't know. Do they have to seclude themselves from their families during that time, even if they're playing? There's a lot to consider of, that I think more than ever, a lot of people are starting to look at the details more than we ever have.
Basketball, you have a smaller team, but you still have a huge staff. But think about like football, where there's how many guys, like on the sideline,
Right.
How many people on the roster? 100? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because we're at a point in that we are in our daily lives. How can we do the most with the least support, right? Or people, or not going into the office. And I think this is going to be really interesting, from sports all the way through all professions, and even how interpersonal relationships. How do we manage this? Say again?
I said the film industry
Right.
has definitely like suffered, and it definitely put a bunch of stuff on hold. I mean, what about you? Are you going out and actually filming with people, or is everything sort of?
No, everything's on pause right now. Anything I'm working on in my day job is trying to work remotely with content we've already captured, with file footage, and trying to do the best. We're leaning in a little bit more to having people capture some content on their own, and weaving that in to different things. So it's interesting to figure out, what the future is going to be like. And something I think about, at least when you're doing promotional videos, is how much do you want to include what's happening in the daily life right now versus showing what life was like, to see how do you encourage people or interest them to get involved. You want to make sure that businesses and people are there to support them and are staying safe, but also you don't want to continue to add to the fear of what's happening. So it's definitely been a challenge, and I think every day we're having to think of something different as a client comes in and asks for something, or we're trying to innovate to make sure we find that happy medium between quality and information. And I think that's gonna. I don't want to say I'm not happy that this pandemic happened by any means. It's awful, but I think it's good to see now that we have an opportunity to reevaluate how we can be better and more efficient and help each other in different ways that maybe we didn't before. And we're actually being more connected in some ways by being isolated, because we're Zooming with people, we're calling people more. I don't know if that's something you've experienced.
Yeah, I've seen that shift as well. Like, I don't know if you were watching the Jordan documentary, but like there's little like, you got people like filming on their camera in between, and so yeah, it's like, it's changing. Like TV is different, commercials are different. Like it's a different time. I know like some film industries have shut down for like the next like 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see how like the content evolves, and like what's going to happen.
I think technology also. I mean, we'll see how the quality of our cameras in our phones and our computers are going to get over time as people are in audio. It's an interesting time for a tech nerd like me that loves all the different gear and gadgets, to see what may happen and close off my checking account. But we'll do the best we can. So, well, I really appreciate it, Jay. I think this was great. We got to talk about a lot of different things, and I hope the best happens with your jiu-jitsu school and your family. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always good to talk to you, homie. Hope you're doing well, and looking forward to checking out some more broadcasts.